Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tempe City Council regular council meeting at the Harry E. Mitchell Government Center. Item number 1 is call to order. Members of the public may attend the meeting virtually through Cisco WebEx by visiting tempe.gov/councilmeetinginfo for more information. Council meetings can also be watched in real time via Cox Cable Channel 11 and at tempe.gov/tempe11. I'd now like to invite everyone who's able and willing to stand to join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you very much. Next up, we have item number 4, meeting minutes. Tonight, I'll be assisted by Councilmember Garland. She's going to first read the Native American Land Acknowledgement Statement, and then she will assist with everything else. Councilmember Garland.
All right. We wish to acknowledge that Tempe is the homeland of the Native people who have inhabited this landscape since time immemorial. These ancestral lands of the O'odham, known as the Pima, and Peeposh, known as the Maricopa, and their ancestors extend far beyond our city. This land continues to be spiritually connected to the O'odham of the Salt River Pima, Maricopa Indian community, and the Gila River Indian community. We accept the responsibility of stewarding those places and solemnly pledge to consider this commitment in every action. And then, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the council meeting minutes for A1 through 3.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Garland.
Second.
And seconded by Councilmember Hodge. Let's go to our voting screen here. All right, please vote. And that item passes 6-0 with Councilmember Navarro absent. Next up, we'll move to item 4B, acceptance of board, commission, and committee meeting minutes. Councilmember Garland.
I make a motion to accept 4B 1 through 4.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Garland and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. And that item also passes 6-0 with Councilmember Navarro absent. Thank you, Councilmember Garland. Next up here, we have item number 5, reports and announcements. I've got a number. Council, if you can join me down at the front, I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, I have quite a few things here this evening. But first up, we're going to do item number 5A1, which is the 2023 Tempe Bike Hero. I'd like to invite Mark McWhorter's family to come join me up front. I also wanted to make sure that I also wished Katie a big happy birthday from all of us here at the City Council. The Tempe Bike Hero Award recognizes individuals who aid in increasing awareness of bicycling and promoting biking as a viable mode of transportation in Tempe. This year, the Tempe Transportation Commission selected Mark McWhorter as the posthumous 2023 Bike Hero. Mark, who was a lifelong Tempe resident, was so dedicated to bicycling that he was known to some as a bike evangelist. If asked, McWhorter would gladly share his knowledge of biking and Tempe's bike-friendly history, and his friends called his enthusiasm contagious. One of his projects was to turn a portion of the family's garage into a bike storage space where there was a place for everything. Mark regularly demonstrated the use of a bicycle as a significant mode of transportation. He consistently biked for exercise, transportation, and leisure. Sadly, Mark was riding his bicycle on College Avenue near Alameda Drive on February 14, 2023, when he collided with the vehicle, resulting in his untimely death at the age of 55. Mark's most important legacy is with us today. It is his family, his wife Katie, and their 4 boys, Thomas, Benedict, Dominic, and Vincent. People who nominated Mark for this award made a point of talking about how he passed on his love of biking to his boys. It was not only for recreation, but it was an important part of their family time. People knew them as a family that rode together. I'd like to acknowledge their strength and courage and make sure that they are here this evening to accept this award on their father's behalf. In honor of Mark's legacy and contributions to the city he called home for over 5 decades, it's with a heavy heart and my honor to present the 2023 Bike Hero Award to Katie, Thomas, Benedict, Dominic, and Vincent. We'll do one, maybe with all with the, let's do one with all, and then one just with the families.
Okay, okay, sounds good.
There we go, ready? Everybody big smile. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then
And
just
so let's
stand
do one with just with the family.
Okay, all right, okay. Good.
Sorry, can you just go over to the side? Thanks.
Are we done?
We got a couple more down here.
Okay.
All right, next up is item 582, which is a proclamation for Juneteenth. And the proclamation reads, whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, formally abolishing slavery, and on June 19, 1865, after 2.5 years, the executive decree was finally fully enforced throughout the Confederate States when Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, to ensure all enslaved people were legally declared free. And whereas Juneteenth has been called the second Independence Day for the United States and began a post-emancipation period where formerly enslaved people began the brutal journey of reunifying families, obtaining education, acquiring private property, and running for elected office. And whereas Juneteenth is a day on which we, as a society, pay honor to those Americans who were enslaved and recognize the evils of slavery and how its aftermath has shaped our nation. And whereas Juneteenth is also a day of reflection and renewal, as we show appreciation for the many valuable contributions and sacrifices made by African Americans to our society. And whereas the Tempe African American Advisory Committee, through the support of the Tempe History Museum, the Tempe Black Employee Alliance, and the Strategic Management and Diversity Office, work together to support and celebrate Juneteenth and honor our state and nation's strong African American heritage and remember the lives of those who were enslaved as part of that history. And whereas we honor through this celebration the life and contributions of Michelle Lynn Brooks Tatras on the anniversary of her passing, for her outstanding leadership of the AAAC, her support of TBEA, and for establishing this annual Juneteenth celebration of freedom in the city of Tempe, which is now in its 10th year. And whereas the transformative work of equity, inclusion, and reform must be shared by all in order to ensure the unalienable rights of all people to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas Tempe recommits itself to the values of inclusion, equity, justice, and reform in recognition of this important day in our country's history. Now, therefore, I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the City of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare as an official city holiday June 19th, 2023 as Juneteenth in Tempe, Arizona. Let's see here. I was going to ask Mr. Ching, on item 5A3, we have the 2023 business survey. Is that item on the agenda, or is that? That is. So do we have to go back upstairs for that one? To see all the slides? Oh, you got it right there. Okay. In the meantime, though, I'm going to go to item 5A4, which is just, I'll do 5A4 really quickly then still, which is the Development Review Commission and Joint Review Committee reappointments and new appointments. I want to congratulate Joseph Forte Jr. and Robert J. Miller on their reappointments to the Development Review Commission, Kelsey Files, Pam Garankin, Michael Burke, and Dave Fackler on their appointments to the Joint Review Committee. Now, going back to item 5A3, the 2023 Business Survey. As you can see there, it's online now. You can take the survey June and July. Go to tempe.gov/surveys. For more information, contact Kimberly Sotelo. It's one of our management assistants at 480-350-2913. Or you can also email strategicmanagementinnovation@tempe.gov. But we really do care about our business community and want to make sure that we're producing an environment that's right for them to thrive and benefit from. So please make sure to take that survey, which is online now during the months of June and July, so we can have all of your feedback and input as we attempt to move forward. So thank you so much. That brings me to another group of items here, and I know we brought a number of things down. Mr. Ching, would you mind joining me down here in the front? So this is our city manager, Andrew Ching's final meeting as city manager before he becomes, this coming Monday, June 19th, the town manager for the town of Paradise Valley. Andrew has now been city manager here for 10 years in the city of Tempe. He's the second longest serving city manager ever in the city of Tempe's history. He's done an incredibly phenomenal job. It's going to be a huge loss to the city of Tempe, but a tremendous gain to the town of Paradise Valley. Andrew, though, will still be a resident here in the city of Tempe, so we keep joking that we're going to see him down here some point at public appearances. But he's just an absolutely incredible human being. I started working with Andrew back in 2008 when I first came to the city, and I'm going to talk more about this during my own comments at the end of this meeting. But he was our city attorney at the time and then transitioned to being city manager back in February of 2013, where he served ever since. And we have a number of presentations for him this evening. But I wanted to do a couple of quick things. I wanted to see if I could invite, we have a couple of people here in the audience who submitted comment cards, but I'm going to play with the agenda a little bit. I know we have our fire union president, Mr. Don Youngward, and our president of the Tempe Officers Association, Mr. Rob Ferraro, Sergeant Rob Ferraro. If you'd both like to come down here, I know you had some comments to offer Mr. Ching, so.
That's right, Andrew.
Mayor Woods, council members, my name is Rob Ferraro, and as you know, I'm the president of the Tempe Officers Association, representing the rank and file of our police department. I wanted to take a brief public moment and wish Andrew Ching success and good fortune as he enters a new role and phase of his professional career. There is much that can be said about Andrew, namely his approachable demeanor, his even temperament, his fairness, and his loyalty. Andrew exhibited these qualities daily as he interacted with city employees, always showing care and treating employees with dignity and respect. He showed a deep respect for public safety, having grown up with us in PD together as our police legal advisor and then as city attorney. He understood the complexities and challenges in policing a large and diverse community. Above all, Andrew is my friend. He is many of our friends. He is our friend because he deeply cares about the well-being of his city employees. It's incredibly difficult to rise to the executive level and not have a few enemies along the way. It's impossible to rise to his level without solid relationships, friendships, and a good heart. So on behalf of our nearly 350 members of the Tempe Officers Association, we wish you great success, my friend.
I'm Don Youngward. I'm president of the Tempe Firefighters. As a Tempe firefighter and fire captain since 1994 and the president of the Tempe Firefighters since 2012, I know I speak for our membership when I say that Andrew Ching will be missed. What we do is not easy. Public safety is expensive, it's challenging, and it's constantly changing. For the past 10 years, Andrew has always been there for the Tempe firefighters and paramedics. He gets it. Leadership requires fairness, vision, and the willingness to listen to multiple perspectives, then chart the best possible course. Through the COVID-19 pandemic, Andrew helped keep us safe and meet the challenges we faced, whether they involved safety, training, resources, or funding. He also helped Tempe address its PSPRS retirement challenges by working with council and the system to leverage interest rates to pay off our debt early. Often, you hear people say that their professional goal is to leave things better than they found them. Andrew Ching did that. He helped us negotiate turbulent times and emerge the better for it. Andrew will be missed. Though our city has a legion of capable leaders ready to step up and fill his shoes, I am glad he isn't going far and that he will always be a phone call away as an advisor and a friend. Andrew, thank you for everything. Every Tempe firefighter wishes you the best of luck in the days and years ahead. I appreciate your friendship.
So we have a number of items here, Mr. Ching.
I love items.
He loves items. Loads of gifts. So let's go ahead and start with this one here. This is a beautiful egg here that I will give to Andrew, which reads, Andrew B. Ching, Tempe City Manager and City Attorney, 24 years of distinguished service.
Forward and present the egg.
Present the egg.
Oblong orb of power.
Can everybody sit this to your right a little bit? Yeah, go this way.
Yeah.
Big steps this way. There we go.
Sure. I write the egg.
There we go. 1, 2, 3.
Very cool.
Keep the gifts coming here. So here's this. We also have here one of the traditions here at the City of Tempe, when someone leaves us who's a distinguished member of our staff here, is a Solari Bell as well. And I wanted to make sure I handed that to you as well.
I have a feeling from the boss.
And we also here have a plaque that says, City of Tempe Recognition of Service, Andrew Ching, City Manager, August 1999 to June 2023. And I'm going to take this out so we can get a good photo here.
All right. Absolutely. I presented many of these. I've gotten one before.
Your turn.
My turn.
And, no.
There's more.
And last but not least, Mr. Ching, Mr. City Manager, I have a proclamation for you as well.
Goodness.
And the proclamation reads, whereas Andrew has given decades of service to the City of Tempe, including 7 years as City Attorney and 10 years as City Manager. And whereas Andrew's deep knowledge of the inner workings of all city departments is matched only by his knowledge of the law, with both skill sets allowing him to lead an innovative, financially secure organization through many challenges and much progress. And whereas Andrew truly enjoyed talking with employees from all over the city organization, showed respect for each employee's knowledge, role, and journey, and set an example for advancing equity. And whereas Andrew was known for his legendary homemade crepes during the holidays, as well as his dad jokes and puns at department directors' meetings when he wasn't asking the hard questions. And whereas Andrew will be long revered for perhaps the single biggest moment in City Hall history, the addition of a restaurant-sized nugget ice machine on the 3rd floor.
That is number one.
And whereas Andrew will be missed as he begins a new professional chapter as town manager in Paradise Valley, but he will always be welcome as a proud member of the Tempe community, where he has made his home for most of his life. Now, therefore, I, Corey Woods, and I know every single member of this council, do hereby declare June 15th, 2023, as Andrew Ching Lifetime of Service Recognition Day in Tempe, Arizona.
One more photo?
We'll get one photo, yeah.
Okay. All right. Slide to the right.
I love the ice machine.
Yeah, start all kinds of Lifetime Recognition Day traditions.
Big smiles.
Carols. Cookies. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know that we will all have additional comments at the end of the meeting from Mr. Ching. So even though the gifts are out of the way, there's still words to come here at the conclusion of the meeting. Which brings us to item number 5B, City Manager's reports and announcements. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Now that I've been properly mortified, I will move on with city manager's reports and announcements. We'll go ahead and call up staff for a presentation. And by staff, I mean Brianne Fisher from our Sustainability Office, Sustainability and Resiliency Office, I'll get it right, to speak about Inflation Reduction Act Tempe updates.
To say.
That was not sustainable.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, thanks for the time today. The purpose of this presentation is to provide you a brief update on Tempe going after the available federal funding in the Inflation Reduction Act. Just as a little bit of a refresher, the Inflation Reduction Act passed in 2022 by the federal government is a historical investment into mostly climate change, clean energy economy, also has some other initiatives, but is in the upwards of $500 billion. A big thank you to Mayor Woods for being a strong advocate for getting this legislation passed, letters of support in addition to op-eds, I believe, in partnership with other state mayors and Arizona Forward. So as you could imagine, the amount of funding available could advance any one of these performance measures, but I want to specifically highlight the financial stability and vitality performance measure. If any of you have ever applied for federal funding, you know that it takes a significant amount of staff time and resources and patience to work through the federal system. However, we believe that the return on investment is more than worthwhile. We are saving the city money while advancing our goals. And before I get into the specific proposals and the dollar signs, I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about how we are doing this work and the role that the city of Tempe is playing. As it may not be a surprise to you all, it is a leadership role in bringing the region together and bringing in diverse stakeholders to the table to identify what the climate action and resilience infrastructure priorities are. In 2021, our office received funding from Vitalis Health Foundation to do exactly this, bring in regional stakeholders to identify and plan and prioritize to prepare for this federal funding coming down. We felt it was important to do this not just to take advantage of the federal funding, but because there is a lack of backbone organization in the region that's solely dedicated to doing this work. Similarly to a Maricopa Association of Governments or a GPAC with economic strategy, there is no sole organization bringing in these stakeholders together and prioritizing the funding. And so with the help of consultants, ASU, community-based organizations, the support of the mayor and council, we've been holding workshops, events, we even administered mini grants, and all for the sole purpose of building our capacity muscles in these 3 federal funding priority areas. These 3 priorities are absolutely required in any funding that you will receive through the climate, the funding available. Justice 40, some of you may know what this is, Biden's initiative that 40% of the funding available goes to disadvantaged communities. Workforce and labor, making sure there is a strategy for future generations and existing generations, and thinking about a just transition into new sectors and industries of the future. And then, of course, regional collaboration, which I hit on before. Thinking, given the amount of money available and given impactful infrastructure reaches beyond jurisdiction lines, we have to have strong ways of working together. And I just want to say thank you for those of you on council, staff, and our partners in the community who attended our February Maricopa Regional Resilience Celebration. Again, because Tempe is in a position of doing this work and being a leader in the region, we were able to provide a platform for our youth, for our Indigenous partners, and for our community-based organizations to share their values and their priorities in decision-making when it comes to this federal funding. Okay, now we can talk about the money. So statewide, we are participating in a Department of Energy Resilient and Efficient Codes Implementation Grant. This grant is, as the title gives, making sure the state is moving together in terms of building a net zero carbon efficient built environment for the future that maintains equity, that maintains affordability, and that maintains a cohesive working relationship with our trades and our unions and all of the pieces of the workforce that are involved in construction. A big thank you to Community Development Building Safety Department for their expertise and their input on this proposal. Environmental Protection Agency Climate Pollution and Reduction Grant. You see that at the statewide and the regional level. At the statewide level, the Governor's Office of Resilience, and then regional level, Maricopa Association of Government is putting those grants forward. This funding is very similarly structured as a climate action plan. So they will be doing a greenhouse gas emissions inventory, creating a menu of infrastructure options, and then municipalities have the opportunity to apply for the funding to implement the strategies. The second one listed under the regional category, Department of Transportation Charging and Fueling Infrastructure. Maricopa County Air Quality is leading this application. This is getting EV chargers throughout the county. They have a large swath of cities participating in this, from Apache Junction to Buckeye. And I believe their application is for $15 million, so not a small amount of funding coming our way. Last on this list is U.S. Department of Agriculture, Urban Forestry. Arizona State University has worked with a handful of cities as well as nonprofits to advance regional urban forestry and shade canopy to cool our urban environment. They are also interested in looking into the workforce gaps in this industry. You may not know, but the amount of locally owned nurseries are closing, and this leads to a lack of diversity in species available, which is not good for our environment and our ecosystem. With the Urban Forestry Office in Tempe and our office, we worked with Arizona State University to specifically get $1 million to advance our own existing urban forestry programs, as well as create some new ones, providing opportunities for disadvantaged communities. These are Tempe-specific funding proposals. The Department of Energy, Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant. This is going to be in the amount of $236,000. This is formula funding, so we don't have to compete for it. We are guaranteed to get it. However, we still have to create a plan and a proposal of what we're going to do with that funding. As you see on the slide, we are targeting high energy burden households and bringing in weatherization, energy efficiency to help them save some money. We would love some partners to leverage the $236,000 to make our dollar stretch a little bit more. If you have any ideas, I'm open. And then lastly, we are going after the charging and fueling infrastructure funding for ourselves, specifically to put in 4 level 2 chargers and 1 level 3 charger in North Tempe Multi-Generational Center. This has been identified because there is a lack of EV infrastructure in the surrounding neighborhood. It's a Justice 40 neighborhood, and there has been an assessment done by the City of Tempe for municipal buildings that are ready and have capacity for this kind of infrastructure, and this one was identified for all 3. This is just year 1 of this funding being available. We are very excited to let you know about the awards that are announced, share this exciting news with you, help you be part of the celebration. We're excited to continue to update you about all of the activity that we have going on, and I am happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Brianne. Really appreciate it. Anyone have any comments or questions? Vice Mayor Adams?
I just want to say that I'm really excited about this, and it's certainly a win for Tempe, and I'm glad that you're doing a good job putting everything together so we can really benefit from this funding. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams. Anyone else? Further comments or questions?
Thanks.
Thank you, Brianne. Great job. All right, next up, Mr. City Manager, any other announcements?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have 2 more announcements. One, I want to take this opportunity to recognize someone who now has the interim tag off of their title. Very pleased to announce that this week, Rydell Holmes, who's here in the audience, was made the permanent director of our Strategic Management and Innovation Office, a richly deserved promotion. She has already been and will continue to be intimately involved in everything going forward with respect to performance management, innovation, strategies, working with council, as you all well know, with the START tool and a myriad of other things. And I know that role will only become more and more significant as time goes on, and we could not have picked a better person. Second thing, I had heard, Mr. Mayor, that you wanted to, and council wanted to reserve your comments regarding all that just happened a few moments ago with the presentation. But since this is city manager's announcements, I'd like to take a little bit of personal privilege and say a couple of words tonight. I promise I'll be as brief as possible. Why break form now? I try to be brief when I can, but city managers, and that myself included, of course, none of this happens as a result of working by yourself. Everything that occurs, good, bad, in between, indifferent, all of it is the result in an organization like the City of Tempe of the immense work, the round-the-clock work, the tireless work that is done by the men and women who are employed here and who dedicate their lives and oftentimes incredibly long and successful careers to the City of Tempe. They are far too innumerable to name, and I have had, over the course of my many years and decades in working for the City of Tempe, got the pleasure of knowing many of them. A number who are still with us, a number who have retired, and a number who have passed away, but who still reside in my memory as people who made a difference to this community, made a difference to this organization, and made a difference to me personally in taking the time to mentor and to teach and to help grow into all of the various positions that I've been privileged and honored to hold and to serve in the City of Tempe. Because that's exactly what it is. These are public positions. These are positions that are paid for by the hard work and labor of the taxpayers who spend money in and own property in the City of Tempe. And we should never forget that the positions that we hold are a matter of public trust. And I hope throughout my years of working here that I have done my part in upholding that public trust and an understanding, both as a city employee and, as the mayor mentioned, a longtime resident of the city of Tempe, that that is an inviolate trust, and it's something that I hold very, very close and as a high priority. And it's all reflected really in, as I said earlier, the work of everyone here. And I'm not just talking about the city employees who happen to be present physically here, but I'm talking about the 1,800 plus people who work every day to make this community great, to make this community exactly what it is. That's who we count on for all of our success. And this public trust I talk about, it extends to the 7 of you, Mr. Mayor and Council, and I'm sorry that Councilmember Navarro is not present tonight, but these words apply equally to him as to all of you who are here. These are not easy jobs. These are not easy positions that each of you have elected to serve. You voluntarily chose to make that sacrifice, and willingly so. And I don't think it should be forgotten by anyone who's either watching or listening, just exactly what that means in terms of the sacrifices, the opportunities lost, and really sort of the slings and arrows that I think all elected officials receive from time to time. But the reciprocal of it is the honor and the privilege that I express in the opportunity and time that I've had. I know that each of you feel that every day in understanding sort of the responsibility of what you've been elected to do. And I look around this dais, each of you came here for different reasons, and each of you serves in this political office. But the privilege and the pleasure that I have had over the years, both with all of you who are presently holding office and all of the number of people who I've had the opportunity to work with who formerly held the offices that you currently hold on this dais for the city of Tempe, is to get to know you as individuals, as human beings who care, who are concerned, who experience the highs and lows and the joys and the pains of this community as they move along. And we shouldn't forget that. We are all human beings. And as human beings, we all sort of internalize and also accept the fact that these are not easy jobs to hold, and we should remember that. And as I kind of look around the dais and I think about each of you and what you've meant to me, I'd just like to say a couple of words for each of you. Councilmember Chin, when I see you, I'm inspired. And the reason I'm inspired is because my father, who is an Asian American, moved us to Tempe when I was 5 years old. And the city of Tempe that I knew as a child growing up here was a very different place. And for a biracial child, one of 8, with parents who fell in love in Arizona, yet had to get married in New Mexico because there were laws in Arizona at the time in the early 1960s prohibiting interracial marriage, I think about what your sitting here on this dais means to me personally, and it means a lot. Your election to council, your appointment previously to council was a statement to those of us who claim Asian heritage, but you're much more than that. You're also a compassionate, reasonable, analytical leader, and I appreciate your service very much. Councilmember Garland, you haven't even served a full term, but it feels to me like you've been here forever. And the reason is because your service comes from deep roots in this community. You raised your family here, just like I did. You served on boards and commissions. You thought about the reasons why you wanted to elect to serve at the level of a council member. And I have had the pleasure of watching you over the last almost 3 years during a lot of adversity, right, the pandemic, come onto this council and establish the things that you truly care about. And that feeling, it can't be faked. And everything you do with tremendous authenticity, and I appreciate that. Councilman Navarro, who's not here, I've known him since 2008, and he represents to me the kind of the old town, if you will, settlers. And the reason I say that is because he is a constant presence, and every time the Old Town settlers, which are people who have lived in Tempe for 30 or more years, I guess that makes me an Old Town settler, get together and talk about sort of where Tempe was and where we are today. And he certainly embodies that. He also embodies public service, both in his day job and also in the several terms that he's held here. And Councilman Navarro is inspirational in that sense. I'm going to skip over you for a second, Mayor, and move down to Vice Mayor Adams and just say that of all the people on the dais, I've known Vice Mayor Adams the longest because I had the pleasure of being a colleague, someone who served as a city employee at the same time that Vice Mayor Adams did. And my earliest recollections of you, Vice Mayor, was how you led long before there was a meet and confer ordinance, that you took an interest in the well-being of our city employees in a leadership positions, I should say, with the old Tempe Employees Council, which predated TOA and the Firefighters Union and TSA and UAEA. That was the precursor. You were the pioneer there. You've also been a pioneer as a out and proud individual here in the city of Tempe. You lead with your heart, you lead with the courage of your convictions, and you lead because you understand that it's the right thing to do. And for that, I admire you and I respect the fact that you have continued to serve well into your second term, and you do Tempe proud. Councilmember Keating, you, as I know it, and being able to work with you over the course of these 2 terms that you've served here, almost 2 full terms, came into public service for a lot of reasons. And I know part of it is something that I understand and take quite personally, which is your understanding and coming to terms with diabetes as an adult, juvenile diabetes as an adult. It's a very difficult thing, and it's an adversity that you've had to face. And the point I bring this up for is that in no way has that ever slowed you down to do all the things that you've wanted to do. You also are a leader that shows heart, compassion, and concern. And you also are somebody who, throughout my knowing you, has always taken very conscientiously your responsibilities as a council member. And for that, I'm inspired, and as a resident, I appreciate that, so thank you. And Councilmember Hodge, you've only been on the council here for a little less than a year, but I've known you much longer than that. And your love for Tempe sort of permeates everything you do. Your service on the high school board, your service here, you're raising your family, you being raised yourself in the city of Tempe, your roots in this organization and in this community run very, very deep. And you exude that pride in Tempe and everything you do. And a lot of the work that I've done here in terms of promoting the Tempe Black Employees Alliance and your interest in that organization and your participation in that organization is something that's incredibly meaningful to me, because you didn't have to, but you did. And that's sort of what leadership is all about, is people who step up, not because they have to, but because they want to. And that, I think, describes you to a T, and I thank you for your leadership. Finally, Mayor Woods, since 2008, I've called you either Councilmember Woods or Mayor Woods, but what I think of you most of is someone who is a friend. When I think about sort of what embodies what I think are your best qualities and what I know from my many years of knowing you came in the in-between years when you were off council, but before you decided to run for mayor. And I remember we arranged, as we would do from time to time, to have lunch. This time it was at Snooze. It was probably 2018-ish or so. And the purpose of the lunch was for you to share with me sort of some really exciting personal news that you had. It had nothing to do with running for office, had nothing to do with politics. It was just a friend telling another friend about something that was significant and exciting in your life. And the joy that you expressed to me, and the sincerity and the authenticity that, like I said, was completely unadorned by anything that has to do with politics or City of Tempe or, intrigue, was so pure and so sincere that has resided in my heart ever since then. And it's the lens with which I look at you. And it's because I know you to be that person, not only in what you do as mayor, but in everything that you do. And to me, that's inspirational. And for that, I thank you for that gift. And so I do want to say a couple other things. I guess I said I was going to be short, but I really haven't been all that short. And I apologize. I guess, you go out with a long-winded blaze of glory, perhaps. But there's so many people I've worked with who I want to just briefly mention because they have helped me along the way in so many different ways. Erin Fillmore, who's been my assistant and worked so closely with her for 17 years, both as city attorney and as city manager. Benicia Benson, Jamie Rodriguez, I want to mention, of course, Nikki Ripley, who's here, who's helped me. I'll let you in a little secret. She helps me with my Friday messages. I don't write that well, but she helps me to kind of put together things, and she captures my voice so expertly that she is just a gem, and I can't say enough good things about her. And of course, the entire city management team. You know, I've been able to promote a number of people during my tenure here, but none that I feel more secure about in terms of their leadership well into the future than Keith Burke, Tom Dunsing, and Rosa Inchausti. They are a true team. They only have the very best intentions in their heart, and in particular, I'll just say a couple words about Rosa and I know the interim city manager role that you'll be stepping into. Having known you for many years as a colleague, considering you as a friend, and as a resident here again in the city of Tempe, I couldn't be more excited for you to step up into this. You are well qualified, you care incredibly much about the city of Tempe, and you will serve this city well as interim city manager. And I can leave this position with a sense of relief and security, knowing that someone of your caliber will be sitting here exactly a week from today, hopefully saying a whole heck of a lot less than I'm saying right now. But again, I don't know, maybe I'm setting some standard. I just wanted to make sure that everyone heard that, because those decisions to assume these positions like this are not easy ones to make. You know, we all make sacrifices to do the things that we do. And the people in this room, the directors and others who are city employees, have made a tremendous amount of sacrifices as well. And we appreciate them and we honor their service, and I honor their service here tonight. So I leave with gratitude, I leave with appreciation. Tempe has given me so much, and I can't ever begin to thank enough this organization and this community for every opportunity I've had. And I will proudly continue to be a resident of the city of Tempe for years and years to come, so thank you. Thank you. Also, Sonia is like the best attorney I've ever worked with, by the way. And Karen and Kara, the way you guys have stepped up as clerk, it's been a pleasure working with all of you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. City Manager. Really appreciate it. And as I said, we've got more comments for you at the end of the meeting here, so the love fest is gonna continue. So, but honestly, you've done an incredible job, and we are so appreciative for everything you've done for the city of Tempe, and even more so as a resident of this community. We cannot speak, we cannot express it enough. So we will try certainly a little bit later. Next up, I'm going to go here. Tonight's agenda has a number of items that the City Council must consider in order to conduct city business. Guidelines for conduct at City Council meetings are available on the table near the entrance for those in attendance at tonight's meeting. I will now read the proper protocol for ensuring the right conduct at City Council meetings. Continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. We need to be able to hear everyone in this room. Behavior that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of any council meeting is not helpful and is not permitted. This includes behavior both inside and outside of the council chambers. Should individuals inside the council chambers become disruptive so that city business is not able to be completed, I will ask that individuals allow city business to be completed. There will be time for public comment during the call to the audience portion of the meeting. If no cooperation, I will issue a verbal warning and let them know that continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If still no cooperation, I will issue a second verbal warning and let them know that continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If no cooperation, then I will ask security officers to remove only those individuals who are causing the disruption. Security personnel should not engage in any way, but only to escort them out of the council chambers. If individuals refuse to leave, security personnel shall warn them that they are trespassing and that the next step will be arrest by a Tempe police officer. Tempe officers may have to arrest if individuals refuse to leave. Charges for trespass and disorderly conduct may apply, as well as other charges. Should anyone be asked to be removed from the meeting, I will recess the meeting. That brings me to item number 6, public appearances. According to the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the City Council may only discuss matters listed elsewhere on this agenda for discussion and legal action. The purpose of the open call to the public is to allow individuals to address the City Council on any issue within the jurisdiction of the City Council. No person shall speak more than once, and there is a limit of 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers present at the podium must state their name and city of residence and provide a speaker card. Members of the public shall refrain from making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks and from becoming boisterous while addressing the City Council or while attending the meeting. Speakers will be taken first come, first served in the order in which the cards are received. Speakers' visual aids and appearances by phone or recordings are not allowed. Council members are prohibited by state law from taking action on, commenting, or discussing a matter raised by a member of the public, even if asked to do so by a member of the public, so long as the subject discussed by the speaker is not listed as a specific agenda item for council's consideration for discussion and legal action. At the conclusion of public appearances, the council may ask the city manager to review a matter or place a matter on a future agenda. That brings me to the cards, and once again, as I mentioned before, I will read them in the order in which they were received. The first speaker I have this evening is Julie Armstrong. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Woods, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Julie Armstrong, and I'm a 20-plus year resident of Tempe, and I have served the past 6 years on the Board of Directors of Tempe Community Council, and I'm currently the board chair. My years of service with TCC have allowed me to meet a lot of other Tempe residents and community volunteers. As a partner with the city, TCC has many opportunities to interface with city staff, elected officials, and the mayor and city council offices. Through this, we are linked to the offices of the city manager and the Department of Community Health and Human Services. I am here to publicly thank outgoing city manager Andrew Ching for his leadership, collaboration, and for sharing his knowledge with our board. On behalf of the board of directors and staff at TCC, thank you, Andrew. TCC has maintained a long working relationship with the city manager's office, and while we are sorry to see Andrew leave, we wish him the very best with his next opportunity, and we are happy Tempe will still be his hometown. We look forward to working with Rosa Enchalski, Chief Deputy City Manager, and Tim Birch, Department of Health and Human Services Director. Thank you to everyone present for your continued passion for Tempe, especially Mayor Woods and council members. Thank you for your time and your commitment to Tempe.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have this evening is Anjali Swami. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Mayor Woods and members of the council, today I want to speak about a growing phenomenon that concerns our communities in our state of Arizona. Hindus form a large religious minority. Globally, they form the third largest religious community that believes in values of acceptance, mutual respect, and peace. According to the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Hate Crimes Statistics report, crimes targeting Hindu Americans are on the rise. And in July 2022, a report released by Rutgers University titled Anti-Hindu Discrimination, a case study of Hindu phobia on social media, detailed how hate messages on social media translate into real-life threats for people of the Hindu faith. And 2 attacks occurred in August 2022, when vandals twice broke into the grounds of a Hindu temple in Richmond Hill, New York, and repeatedly took a sledgehammer to a statue of Mahatma Gandhi while repeating anti-Hindu slogans. A week later, a Hindu man ordering a bean burrito at a Taco Bell in California was assaulted by a man who spit at him, mocked his vegetarian diet, and let loose a flurry of invective. Embarrassed to say this is what he said: "You, using the F word, ugly as Hindu cow urine, that's what you shower in," he screamed. Nearly simultaneously, a viral video shows a woman in Texas approaching Hindu women of Indian origin without provocation, threatening to shoot them, yelling, "Go back to India. We don't want you here. I hate you. Again, the effort, Indians." 1 out of 3 Hindu American students reported that they have been bullied in school for their religious beliefs, according to the Hindu American Foundation's 2015 study on bullying and bias against Hindu students. And Hindu phobia is exasperated and institutionalized by some in academia who support the dismantling of Hinduism and accuse its sacred texts and cultural practices of violence and oppression. The success of the Hindu community in California has led to the targeting of the Hindus by extreme left progressive wing. Legislations like SB 403 are aimed at institutionalizing targeted Hinduphobia in California by including caste, a medieval concept eradicated in the Indian constitution. The goal is to profile the Hindu community and then use this bill to weaponize it against American Hindus. I spoke here today on this issue because it is our effort to share this concern at the most grassroots level of governance. Only when we are aware of what is happening in this great country of ours, we can address the issue in full earnest. Thank you for your time. Please feel free to contact me if there are any questions.
Thank you so much. Next up, I've got Carla Martin. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Carla Martin, Tempe, Arizona resident. Good evening, Mayor Woods and City Council members. Usually at meetings like this, I'm working as a captioner or court reporter, writing down what everyone is saying. In 2017, I was honored to receive the Mayor's Tempe Business Leadership Award for my work providing services to the disability community, specifically individuals with hearing loss. I reside in the cul-de-sac where the 1988 East Los Arbales Drive short-term rental is located. There was a huge party starting at 10 p.m. the evening of May 20, 2023 that flowed into the neighborhood several blocks away and culminated in 19 shots being fired at 3:45 a.m. in front of my house and my neighbors' homes. The police were called and on site about 11 p.m., and in response to a call from neighbor Joe Pena, the owner, Scott Ellsworth, arrived on site. At that time, the owner, in discussion with Sergeant Anthony Nardini, had an opportunity to evict the occupants, shutting down the party, but chose not to. As a result of Mayor Wood's intent to stop shootings of this type, Tempe's short-term rental ordinance went into effect March 6, 2023. In violation of Section 16A-213A, license required, and Section 16A-2117A, advertisement requirements, the owner has been operating since at least November 2022 with no license until becoming licensed on May 3, 2023. In violation of Section 16A-216A, C, and D, neighbor notification required, the owner to this day has not provided me their name nor any emergency contact. I believe the owner has also violated Section 16A-215, compliance with the law, subsections A, B1, and E. Section 16A-223A, judicial relief, reads, notwithstanding Section 16A-220, any attempted or completed felony act arising from the occupancy or use of a short-term rental that results in a death or actual or attempted serious physical injury shall be grounds for judicial relief in the form of a suspension of the property's use as a short-term rental for a period that shall not exceed 12 months from the date of the violation. I'm asking you to impose applicable fines under Section 16A-221 enhanced policies and initiate proceedings to enforce Section 16A-223 judicial relief by suspending Scott Ellsworth's short-term rental license for the maximum time allowable. If an appeal is filed, I am requesting it be denied based on the extreme threat posed to my neighbors and my safety as a result of this event. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have this evening is Susan Price. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
I'm Susan Price. I live in Tempe, and I appreciate being with you, Mayor and council people. This is live across the street from Carla Martin, and am a die-in-the-wool Tempe resident. I love this city. I am so honored that you are willing in these crazy times to serve as public servants. And I want to also give a good shout out to the Tempe police, who were really helpful, not just that evening, that morning, when I got up and saw 20 handcuffed people sitting on my lawn. My grandchildren don't want to come to my house now to spend the night because they're a little afraid. Tempe is a wonderful city. I have been here since 1977. I worked as an HR director, and I know how to talk to people and how to hire people and how to screen people. And my husband, who has passed away, Alan Price, 2 degrees from ASU, was vice president for advancement for that university. Our children grew up on that campus because that's how important living here was. And I'm so sad that this is happening, but this is nothing that Tempe can fix, but because there's too much gun violence and there's too many people talking truth, but it's really lies, and then the lies are now truth. And this is so confusing, and this is impossible for us to deal with. But the one thing we can deal with is the ordinance. We have to put more teeth in this ordinance, because when I spoke with one of those owners, when all the dust was settled, they lied to us. They said it was Airbnb that didn't allow them to shut down this party. That was a lie. And I was silly enough to feel sorry for them because they were victims of Airbnb. No, we've got to cut this out. And when I look at the penalties that are imposed for noncompliance, I understand that many of the people that were there welcome paying the penalties because they could afford it. So we've got to go deeper. We have to create an invoice for what it really costs the city of Tempe. And the good guys, the citizens and the loyal public servants, should not be burdened with having to come up with the dollars out of the budget I know you're going to be talking about. They should be responsible. We should create an invoice for what it cost pulling all of those officers. I don't know how many squad cars. We've got to do this better and stronger. We can at least tweak paperwork. Please give this your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Rob Keithley. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Rob Keithley. I'm a resident of Tempe, Arizona. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I appreciate the time. I'm not going to bore you, or not bore you, but I'm not going to go over everything that Carla and Susan said. I'm just going to plead to you that one of you be able to tell me how I'm supposed to take my 5-year-old grandson who lives with me out in his front yard to play on his swing set. How am I supposed to do that? He won't go. My house is the house that the 2 shooters that night had their car parked in front of. My daughter, my son, my wife who was here, my grandson and myself witnessed everything. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that my grandson is my very best friend, and I spend a lot of time with him. I moved him from the state of Maine here to be with us. And now I have to face him every day with, come on, let's go out front and play with Papa. Papa, I don't want to go out front. There might be guys out there with guns. I can't say you did the right or wrong thing to pass this ordinance for short-term rentals. I'm not a politician. I'm just a grandfather who loves his grandson. And we really do need to take a better look at this ordinance. I don't understand. I've traveled many, many years in my life. I'm a United States Navy veteran. I've been all over the countries. If I ever went to a foreign country and wanted to stay the night, I stayed in a hotel. Or I stayed on the submarine that I was stationed on. But I wasn't staying in somebody else's house. I just don't understand that. So again, I'm pleading, if any of you can reach out to me and explain to me how I'm supposed to do this, I would welcome the phone call. And if you can't, then I welcome you to take another look at this ordinance. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your service. The next speaker I have is Joe Pena. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Joe Pena. I live at 1984 East Los Arboles Drive, right next door to a short-term rental. I came to Tempe, Arizona after graduating from high school 60 years ago. Except for the number of years that I spent in the military, I have lived in Tempe, Arizona. I love the city of Tempe. I have probably lived here about 55 years. And what I saw happening in our neighborhood, our cul-de-sac, the night of May 20th, just blew me away. Made me very angry when I looked through the window and I saw hundreds and hundreds of people filling our cul-de-sac, cars halfway on my driveway, people milling around on my front yard. I became very angry, and I stormed out there to my driveway and began shouting at people to leave my property, leave my beautiful cul-de-sac with my beautiful neighbors there, and shouting at the top of my lungs. I probably use profanity, but I blame it on the Marine Corps teaching me that. They slowly but surely heard me. I called the police, and the police came, and I appreciate that. I called one of the co-owners, and he came about 30 minutes later, claiming that he had no authority to kick these people out. Hundreds and hundreds in and out of that house, right in front of my house, and mingling through my yard. I shouted and cursed. And then during the night, of course, you heard others talk about shots fired. The police picked up about 19 casings. And then when they stormed the house to execute a search warrant, they found 2 hidden guns in there and some bulletproof armor. This is right next door to my house. And after the shooting and the discovery of the weapons right next door to my house, I could kick myself for having been out there shouting and yelling and using profanity towards the people that were there, because I could have been shot. My 55 years in Tempe, Arizona, as a proud resident, would have ended. And that kind of makes me angry even now. Please, I appreciate the ordinance that you adopted earlier this year, and I emphasize, please exercise it to the max when it comes to penalties. It would really protect the residents of our beautiful city. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your service as well, sir.
Thank you.
The next speaker I have is Mikkel Keeney. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Mikkel Keeney. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and Mr. Ching. I live in Tempe. I live on Kenwood Lane, which is, I'm just north of Warner, in between Warner and Palomino. And this event that they just were speaking of not only was on Los Arboles, but carried up Kenwood past my house around the corner to another short-term rental on Palomino, as you probably know. And surprisingly, I slept through the gunfire, but I got up and there was a text from my friend Eduardo who said, do you know that your street is barricaded off at the end on Kenwood and there's a heavy police presence? And then I found out some of what they have told you, what had happened during the night. So I want to thank everyone in this room who worked on the short-term rental ordinance. Thank you for that. I'm sure that a lot of effort was made for careful wording on that. And I thank the city staff who have been working very hard since May 21st on this to enforce the ordinance and ask for the maximum penalty for the suspension of the license of this homeowner, which is, I think, the only message that will get through to them, since they have told us they don't care about fines. But a year of no operation could mean something. And so my hope is that whether we're in South Tempe or North Tempe or a family neighborhood or a student neighborhood, it doesn't matter. We're all the same as far as our neighborhoods are no place for body armor, no place for literally having body armor, no places for numerous guns and gunfires to be present. And so just know that our neighborhood is strong. We're not all here tonight. Some of us are here. You'll probably see some more of us next time. But we're with you, and we're so glad. This is probably the most hopeful I've ever been at a city council meeting, the happiest I've ever been at a city council meeting, because I have hope that this will stand and that we will be able to send a message not just to Tempe, but to the whole state of Arizona with problems with short-term rentals, that this will make a difference. And so thank you, and just thank you. All right.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Peter South. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I am Peter South. I reside in Phoenix, Arizona. And Mr. Mayor, City Council members, I'm here this evening to represent Arizonans for Responsible Tourism. We are your state's short-term rental coalition advocating for short-term rentals. And I'm here to speak about the shooting that occurred in the city of Tempe. And when we heard about it, we were also very upset to learn that it had occurred. One of the cornerstones of our coalition is to help owners prevent things like shootings and other bad things happening at our properties. And we worked with the city in crafting the short-term rental ordinance to ensure safeguards are in place to make sure our neighborhoods are safe from disruptive guests. We strongly supported the Tempe ordinance and its process to register and regulate STRs in the community. And we've actually been in contact with this owner of this property, and we learned that he was not a member of the AZRT Alliance. And we have since educated him on many of the safeguards that we recommend to protect our neighborhoods. This incident could have been avoided with just a few safeguards in place, such as clear house rules, security camera, and noise monitoring device. Had the camera and noise monitoring device been in place, the owner could have been aware of the increase in activity long before there were any concerns. So we fully support the city of Tempe and the council and licensing department to impose a fine up to $500 for the first violation as listed in the city STR ordinance. We are firm supporters in enacting smart legislation such as the current ordinance, which lays out penalties for bad actors in the STR community. We understand as the STR community that bad actors need to be educated or removed from the STR marketplace. And we understand the frustrations of the neighbors who had to endure this terrible experience. We remind the city and community that one incident does not make all STRs bad. Many of us in this room routinely stay at short-term rentals in our travel. It is up to all of us to work together to educate owners, guests, neighbors, and the city to refine the ordinance to ensure it works for everyone. And lastly, we at AZRT offer our platform to work with the city to ensure best practices are followed for every guest in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Donald Hawker. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Don Hawker, and I'm a Tempe resident. I'm here, I was working on the 2050 plan Sunday night and didn't quite make the deadline, but it's kind of in a religious mood, so there might be some religious implications here. I'm a resident, and I'm here to separate myself from the immoral actions of this council and its library board with respect to the pedophilia and homosexually predatory books, which are now on prominent display in the child and teen sections of the library. Although the display doesn't indicate to parents the contents of the books, lest someone object, as every parent should. At council meetings, probably the most repeated word is sustainability, which purports to protect qualities of life such as temperature and other ecological conditions, which must be rescued with such brilliant ideas as 20-minute cities, blue zones, and zero parking apartments to discourage owning cars. But despite the great longevity you are projecting from these efforts, we will all end up dying and going into eternity, which I've been told, as with true natural gender, is binary, heaven or hell. And so I focus on and urge others to consider in their other grandiose plans, to consider the sustainability of the soul through the judgment of their beliefs and actions by their creator. The Tempe taxpayers have a book on display in the teen section, How to Succeed in Witchcraft. Notes on the back. Come for the queer banter, stay for the history of magic, steeped in shrewd social consciousness. Another book, Friday in Love, Mahalia Harris's coming out party, to celebrate her extremely queer, extremely lovable self and help her to get a girl if possible. It saddens me to have to come here, as some of us did a few years ago, to ensure that council awareness of these books, to which blatant disregard and increased intensity of Project Pedophilia was the only result. But as for now, a Tempe taxpayer who does not wish to spend eternity with the perpetrators who place their confidence in the corrupt legal system, I wish to publicly repudiate this child molestation and advise those responsible that they won't be able in their judgment to say that no one warned them. My advice to responsible parties to these actions would be to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by shutting off their air conditioners this summer, a nice sustainable action, and also preparation for their post-mortem eternal environment, unless they turn 180-degree repentance and repair of the present situation.
It's time.
Thank you.
The next speaker I have is Jim Freedom. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, Council. I am Jim Freedom, and as previously stated, I'm here to offer my idea of a solution that would solve everything. I know you've heard the first 2 words I'm going to use before, but please just hear me out. Transparency and accountability. Those words get thrown around a lot, but they're never applied seriously when and where it actually matters. For example, the public records process is a cruel joke, and none of the employees even get questioned when they fail their legal duties to serve the public. Giving the public their own public records should be a very simple task, the simplest. The fact that you call it a records request lets us know that you think it's okay to deny the information when you want to. You make it difficult to get records of things that make you look bad, but when it looks bad, it's usually because it is bad, and covering it up makes it way worse. It's Transparency 101. Now, if I were mayor, I would show the world what true transparency and accountability looks like firsthand by live streaming the process. Not just a meeting every 2 weeks or a press conference that I'm well prepared for, but the actual process of how decisions are made in government. I would empower the people with information in real time during any decision-making I considered. If a private interest group or another government official wanted to sway me any direction, they would do so with an audience. No more closed-door private meetings, no more secret courts, no more confusion about true motivations, just the truth on camera. And if you have nothing to hide as a civil servant, this idea would excite you, while rejecting it would tell a story of its own. Now that's transparency. Accountability will come naturally as a result of true transparency. Now remember, accountability does not have to mean punishment. You guys are the ones addicted to punishment, not me. Holding yourself accountable can be as easy as recognizing a wrong that you've had a part in and choosing actively to work to right that wrong. Now, by now, I hope you realize I'm not just talking to you guys. I stand in a building I helped pay for, speaking into a microphone I helped pay for, recording with cameras I helped pay for, and streaming it with an internet connection I helped pay for. And the entire planet has the opportunity to hear my words. Surely you can recognize the power in that. We would be a fool not to use our most powerful resource to its full potential. This instant global connection that we all share through technology is the tool we've been waiting for. It's the one thing we've never had available to us until relatively recently, and once it's used properly, it will end the lies and corruption we all know exists in government. Last thing I want to say is a great Jacques Fresco once said, "If you think we can't change the world, that only means that you're not one of the ones that will."
That was the last card I asked.
It's on. There you go.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. That was the last card that I have. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council this evening? If so, please get my attention. Okay. All right. Seeing none, I will go ahead and close that portion of the meeting and move on to item number 7, consent agenda. Actually, I should ask really quickly before we move on, Madam City Attorney, regarding the residents of Estate La Colina, I know Tom Dunsing has a report on that. Is he allowed to talk about that here, or is that, or not, because that's not on the agenda, or would he have to, and Mr. City Manager as well, speak to the residents offline? I just want to make sure that we know, that they know that we heard what they were saying and that there's some response in some way.
Mayor, members of council, there actually is public record that Mr. Dunsing could talk about tonight.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Dunsing, our Deputy City Manager and Chief Financial Officer.
Yes, Mayor, City Council, good evening. I wish it was under better circumstances. Staff has had a number of discussions with the HOA and the neighbors in that area. And I do want to let the public and the council know that we did dispatch a letter to the owner of the short-term rental with the intention to file charges and the intention to suspend the license for up to a year. If there was more we could do in this situation, I can tell you as staff, we certainly would do it. We are going as far as the law allows us. And I remind the public that this body, this ordinance that was enacted, was as far as the law will allow us. If there's anything in addition we could do, we certainly would. I'm certain that the City Attorney's Office and the Police Department will look at it from a criminal side. But as far as the civil side, we've been working closely with the city attorney. The letter's been dispatched. We will work it as quickly and as efficiently as we can. And lastly, to the residents, we absolutely would be happy to sit down and talk to them, to walk through the ordinance, to walk through our process and do whatever we can. We have the same goal as they do, and it's just a safe and secure community. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Dunsing. And thank you for that as well. I just wanted to make sure, I know all of us sitting up here wanted to let you know that we hear you and we are sorry that you had to experience this, but we are doing everything we can under the law. And Mr. Dunsing has really led those efforts. And so I just wanted to say thank you all for coming this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. That moves us to item number 7, consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and will be enacted with one motion by the City Council unless an item is removed for separate consideration. Members of the public may remove public hearing items for separate consideration. Public hearing items are designated as public hearing item at the beginning of the item title. Council members may remove any item for separate consideration or to declare a conflict of interest. If a council member would like to declare a conflict at this time, the city clerk will provide the council member with a disclosure form. If you wish to speak on a public hearing item, please fill out a speaker card and submit your completed card to the city clerk prior to the agenda item coming forward for council discussion. I will call your name when it is your turn for public comment. This evening, the consent agenda is listed as miscellaneous items 7A1 through 7A4, awards of bids and contracts, items 7B1 through 7B24, and resolutions, items 7C1 through 7C9. Once again, any agenda item designated as public hearing item can be removed by a member of the public for separate consideration. If anyone would like to have a public hearing item removed, please get my attention now. All right, seeing none, I'll just ask really quickly, Madam Clerk, were there any comments received from the public wishing to address the City Council on a consent agenda public hearing item?
No additional cards.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll turn to the council here. Councilmember Keating?
Mayor, I'd like to remove item 7C9, please.
Okay, item 7C9. Councilmember Hodge? Oh, I saw your microphone. I thought you were.
I was going to say so.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, want to make sure. All right, anyone else on council wish to have any other items removed? All right, well then that brings us to, once again, if I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda this evening, listed as miscellaneous items 7A1 through 7A4, awards of bids and contracts, items 7B1 through 7B24, and resolutions, items 7C1 through 7C9, with the exception of item 7C9, which has been removed by Councilmember Keating for separate consideration.
So move.
It's been moved by Councilmember Keating, and I would say seconded by Vice Mayor Adams. Please vote. And that item passes 6-0 with Councilmember Navarro absent. I've done the same thing. That brings me to item 7C9, which was requested to be pulled by Councilmember Keating, which is to adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the amended City of Tempe personnel rules governing employment policies for the City of Tempe. Councilmember Keating.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I just wanted to take a second to thank City Manager Ching for his help moving this through the process. I asked this board's permission to work on this close to a year ago. I mean, it was a long time, and it was quite the process, and I know that City Manager Ching was able to work behind the scenes. Originally, staff was not recommending it. He was able to work behind the scenes and kind of alleviate everyone's concerns and bring something forward that everyone could agree upon that, I believe will ultimately leave our city in a better place. So I'm very pleased that it's on not only is it up today, but it's on the consent agenda as a tribute to the job that Mr. Ching did navigating this item through the process. So I'm very pleased to have it here. Thank you very much, Andrew, for your help on this. Thank you to my colleagues for allowing me to bring this forward in the first place. And with that, Mayor, I move we approve item 7C9.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Keating to approve 7C9 and seconded by Councilmember Hodge. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, please vote. And that item passes 6-0 with Councilmember Navarro absent. Next up is item 8, the non-consent agenda. All items listed on the non-consent agenda will be considered separately. Agenda items scheduled for introduction and first public hearing will be heard but will not be voted upon at this meeting. Agenda items scheduled for second public hearing and final adoption will be voted upon tonight. Council members who may have a conflict of interest may abstain from voting on a matter, and the city clerk will provide the council members with a disclosure form at this time. First up, we have miscellaneous items, bids, contracts, and resolutions. Item 8A1, which is to approve the utilization of a 3-year Sourcewell cooperative contract with E1 Incorporated for the purchase of 1 rescue pumper apparatus and 1 95-foot ladder truck for the Tempe Fire Medical Rescue Department. Council, any comments or discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilmember Hodge and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. That item passes 6-0 with Councilmember Navarro absent. Item 8A2 has been removed from the agenda for a future meeting, excuse me. That brings us to item 8A3, which is to award the construction contract to Hayden Building Corporation for the Tempe Municipal Operations Center, GMP number 4, Phase 2, mass grading and long lead items project located at 2090 West Rio Salado Parkway.
Motion to approve.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Adams, seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. And that item passes 6-0 with Councilmember Navarro absent. The next item under the section is 8A4, which is to award a construction contract to Felix Construction Company for the Recharge Well Number 2 equipping project located at 800 East Divot Drive. Council, any comments or discussion? So moved. Moved by Councilmember Hodge and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. And that item passes 6-0 with Councilmember Navarro absent. The last item under the section is 8A5, which is to award a construction manager at risk construction contract to PCL Construction Incorporated for Kyrene Water Reclamation Facility Reactivation Investigation Work project located at 311 West Guadalupe Road. Council, any comments or discussion?
Motion to.
Second.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Adams and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. That item passes 6-0 with Councilmember Navarro absent. The next item, section on the non-consent agenda is ordinances and items for introduction and first hearing. There are no items scheduled to be read and introduced tonight, so I'm going to move on to the next section, which brings us to 8C, ordinances and items for second hearing and final adoption. These items were first read and introduced back on June 1st, 2023, and votes on these items will be taken tonight. The first and only item under the section is 8C1, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance for a zoning map amendment from R16 Single Family Residential Zoning District to R16 with a historic overlay designation for McCamey Riggs House located at 135 East Bonita Way. The applicant is Mark Benson. I know we had a presentation at the last hearing about this. Would council like another presentation?
No. Move to approve.
Second.
Well, before that, this is a public. I'll ask people, folks to withdraw because it's a public hearing item. So, are we good? All right, sounds good. All right, I'm going to open the public hearing portion of this. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the City Council on this item? If so, please get my attention.
Don't you do it.
Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and I'm going to look to the council.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Keating and seconded by Vice Mayor Adams. Please vote. And that item passes 6-0 with Councilmember Navarro absent. That brings us to item number 9, current events, council announcements, and future agenda items. I will call on council members for their comments and or requests to add an agenda item to a future council meeting.
I have to.
That brings me to first this evening to when I called you. Oh, sorry. First up tonight, Councilmember Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one announcement for myself, and then I'm doing one for Councilmember Navarro, who is not here tonight. Announcement for myself is I just want to wish everyone a good Juneteenth celebration this weekend. Mayor, I'll be out of the country, so I will not be able to join you and my colleagues, but it's always a fun event, and it's a good celebration, so I'm looking forward to seeing the pictures, and no doubt, not only online, but in future council announcements, no doubt. Okay, now is my Councilmember Navarro coming up here. I want to invite everybody to Tempe Playlist. Tempe has a long history of supporting live music. Councilmember Navarro and myself started a working group on live music. God, has been 6 years ago now. And recently the city of Tempe has decided to help businesses hire musicians by making fees for live music much more affordable than they were in the past. Tempe Community Arts Team has unveiled the 2023 through 2024 Tempe playlist to highlight the work of local musicians. So this Tempe playlist is actually local artists that are part of our community, live and work here, that we're highlighting, and I think that's great for us to use, our megaphone to promote, water the grassroots, so to speak. You can check out the Tempe playlist at tempe.gov/playlist. You can also listen to it on Spotify, so do check it out and support local Tempe artists. Thank you, Mayor. That's all for me and Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Keating. Next up, Vice Mayor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My first announcement is water donations for heat relief. As everyone knows, it's getting very hot out there, and we do have heat relief locations that dispense water. And if you'd like to donate water bottles, you can donate to Hope. And their email address is hope@tempe.gov. And then they will pick it up or and drop it off. So you can drop it off, or they'll pick it up. Is what I meant to say. So feel free to do that if you so wish. The more water, the better. This is going to be another hot summer. And we do have our new Cooling and Vision Center at northeast corner of Apache and Dorsey. And it's nice because it's right by light rail. So if you, hop off light rail and you're overheated or you just want to come in and cool off a little bit, feel free to do so. So that's our actually, there's number 9 now. We have 9 cooling centers in the city. So I'm really proud of the city of Tempe's efforts on that. The second one is pets and child summer safety. Hot cars become deadly in just minutes. And a relatively cool day for Tempe, a 90-degree day, the car ends up being 120 degrees in 20 minutes. So it's very, very important to please don't forget your children and don't forget your pets in the cars. They cannot stay in the cars anymore this summer. It gets too hot too fast by themselves and obviously without air conditioning. And if you do see a child or an animal in the car, please call 911 immediately. So it's a really important thing. Under future agenda items, I would like us to look at delayed yellow lights and a future item. I know there's some other areas in the valley that are doing delayed yellow lights, and that is a part of our Vision Zero plan, and I would like us to look into that and possibly adding that for our safety. Apparently, it really increases the safety of intersections. So to staff, that's next. Thanks, Keith. And finally, I want to say a few things about Andrew. Andrew and I have known each other for 24 years. And I want to thank you for all your public service and your dedication to the city of Tempe. One of my favorite memories of you, Andrew, was when your daughter came over and I gave her a ride on my horse. And it was great because both you and your daughter were beaming. So that was really a special memory for me. Unfortunately, I lost that horse, but that memory stays with me. I know that I texted you the most, more than any other of my colleagues on council with constituent questions. And so I apologize for that. So Rosa, get ready for my texts because you're next with getting texts. So I really appreciate your responsiveness and your help with all of those questions. And we dealt with a lot of different ones. And the best news is, Andrew, now you can text me with constituent concerns. So there you go. And I just want to wish you the best at Paradise Valley, and they're fortunate to have you. So thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams. Councilmember Chin. Okay. All right. Okay, no announcements from Councilmember Chin, but once again, we're going to come back around to our Andrew comments. So then I will turn to Councilmember Garland for her announcements.
All right, thank you so much. There I am. I didn't push the right button. Sorry, I'm loud enough. I could have just yelled. So we have a Human Services and Community Safety meeting coming up on June 23rd at noon, and our presentations will be from the Community Health and Human Services Department, and it'll be about family advocacy, Hometown for All initiative, homeless shelters expansion in the city, and an update on what the city of Tempe is doing with our regional partners to address homelessness in Tempe. So the next one is a brown bag lunch that I just wanted to invite anybody else to if they wanted to come. It'll be at the Pyle Adult Center on June 22nd. I will be the guest speaker, and I'll be talking about my granduncle. In Navajo, we would say grandfather. He's the one on the right-hand side. His name is George Kirk. They wanted to, the guests that were at the Pyle Adult Center wanted to learn a little bit more about code talkers and a little bit about my Navajo history. So I'm going to be speaking there. If you want to come, bring your own bag lunch, and dessert is provided for $1. Limited space, so please register early if you can. And this next one, like I said, you guys are going to get really tired of this picture. But I just want to say again, just reminding everybody to be safe around water. You can go to tempe.gov/pools to learn about to being in the pools that we have available when they're open, and about pool safety. I just wanted to remind everybody the ABCs of water safety, which is adult supervision, barriers, and classes, CPR classes and other ones. So you're going to, again, hear a lot about that. So I will let you watch your kids around water. And the last one is we did our point in time summer count this morning. This is the 5th year that I've been able to participate in the point in time count, and it's a really wonderful thing, and I'm trying really hard not to fall asleep and yawn up here on the dais. Because we arrived there at 5:30 this morning. That huge group that you see, that's the group of volunteers. I just want to say thank you so much to Jessica Wright for organizing this for everybody. Thank you to Brick Road Coffee for donating the coffee for us. Mayor Woods and Councilmember Hodge were there this morning to send us off with some really warm, very nice greetings. And a little pep talk before we started going. The picture on the left-hand side is a gentleman we met this morning. I cannot remember the name of his dog, but his dog was acting like a puppy, and he said it was 12 years old. It was just the cutest thing. My team members were Sergeant Kathy Click, Benta Coker, and Eric Guina, and we had a really nice time out there. And Vice Mayor Adams mentioned something about the cooling centers. We did hand out a lot of those cards today to let people know that there are places where they can get cool. There were 60 volunteers that showed up, and I just want to say again, the internal departments that were there was the HOPE team, Tempe PD Office of Community Policing, the Mayor and Council, City Manager's Office, Tempe Works, Community Supervision and Counseling, CARE 7, Housing, Parks, and Urban Forestry. The community partners that were there were TCAA, iHelp, CBI, Mountain Park, Salvation Army, and Wyndham Security, and that is the people that were in addition to our incredible resident volunteers that were there. So I just want to say again, thank you so much to everybody who showed up today. Last year we did a summer count and it was 384. We don't know the total yet today because we've got to go through those numbers and make sure there's no duplicates. But again, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who was there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Garland. I'm going to now look to Councilmember Hodge for her announcements.
The first one is probably one of my favorite holidays. Juneteenth is this Saturday. It's at the Tempe Historical Museum. Please come out and enjoy it. You get to hear myself and Mayor Woods read a book. And also, just enjoy. It's for everyone. It's educational. Please come out and enjoy it. Thank you. And also, we have another Juneteenth that's actually on Sunday at let me make sure I get it right. At the Arizona Heritage Center. So please come out to that. That's from 12 to 5. That's going to be another phenomenal chance to get to know about Juneteenth. And we also have, it's called Footprint Hoops. It's one of our finest. He actually, his name is Gabe, and he actually went to Marcos Denisa. He played professional basketball. He is now doing a basketball camp in Guadalupe, which all Tempe residents can bring their children to. So if you do have some children that would like to go to basketball camp, you can reach out to me and I can give you the information for Gabe to go to be in his basketball camp. And also, I just want to give some updates. My council aide Sapan and also Tanya Chavez has been going to all of the general plan meetings. It's been well received by our community. Just wanted to give some dates out there so everybody know that they still have more time to go and listen and contribute to our general 2050 plan. Oh, yes. And also, I was going to say, Councilman Garland said most of everything that I was going to say about the point town count today. It was my very first time. So I was, I'll tell you this, it was very eye-opening for me to see it hands-on for the first time. I got to meet a few of our constituents in our city, and their stories are, you sit and you build it up believing that, they're all on drugs or all on this, but they have stories to tell. They're somebody's mother, somebody's father, somebody's sister, brother, cousin, aunt, uncle. There's someone's family member. So, it's very important. I want to thank all of the city of Tempe and everyone who joins into it. It's near and dear to the heart to hear it and see it directly. So, thank you.
Thank you,
That's it.
Councilmember. Thank you, Councilmember Hodge. Now I'm now going to go back around for our second round of announcements this evening, and I'm going to go back to Councilmember Keating. Just going in the order I got on paper.
All right, all right. Thank you, Mayor. I tried to write down what I was going to say, and I'm never good at writing stuff down and reading it. Even trying to read these talking points about the playlists was like the hardest thing I've done in my 7 years in this council. But I did want to speak about Andrew for a little while. This is his last meeting, and it's certainly a somber event. I know he probably feels the same way, 24 years of service. I mean, I got a little choked up when I turned in my car a couple of years ago so it's just one of those things. And, I think it was Truman who said, if you want a friend in this job, get a dog. And the longer I've been in this job, the more I realize that, there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of different agendas being played out at all times. This body is in flux, right? There's new people that come, there's new people that go. There's the relationships that when you start aren't the same as when you end. And at times, it has been a little disconcerting to me that seems to be the nature of the business. But I never felt that way about Andrew Ching. From my first day in office, none of you guys were here for my first day in office, unfortunately, but Councilmember Navarro was, and Mr. Ching can tell you, it was pretty rough those first year and a half on this body, and no one helped me more than Andrew did. When I'd have to reach out with questions about processes, things I was too embarrassed to ask my colleagues because I didn't know the answer to. He would talk to me about items that were coming up in executive session, give me background on things so that I could approach it with still not knowing what I was doing, but would have some sort of familiarity with the topics and the processes that we were going to be discussing that day. So many times throughout the last 7 years, I had the opportunity to serve with Andrew. I would get, I'd be in conflict with staff or a colleague or a stakeholder, and I'd go to Andrew to figure out a solution to this. How can I get what I want in a way that makes staff happy, in a way that staff is saying that I'm able to do this, and we just had an example of that earlier on this meeting. So many times in executive session where we're arguing with each other, or we're not seeing each other's point of view, Andrew was able to chime in and kind of point out that, hey, look, you guys are arguing for the same thing. Or if you're willing to move a little bit to the left and you move a little bit to the right, politically, I'm just saying that as like a metaphor, then we can kind of get to where everyone's going to be happy and we can get out of this nightmare meeting and go home because it's late and some of us are trying to go on vacation. So, Andrew, I've appreciated, one, your friendship to my first point, two, your counsel. I've appreciated the fact that you and I have had very, very heated, intense discussions that I know, at least speaking from my perspective, would be ones that are hard to forget the next day, but somehow you always made it easy to forget the next day and move on with the city's business. There's been times when I've been so mad at you that I just wanted to scream, and there's been times when I've been so thankful that I've had you there to help me along the way and help me navigate the process. This city is going to be worse off without you. There's no way to deny that. Paradise's Valley's gain is Tempe's loss, but I know that your time and service to our city cannot be measured. And you are leaving Tempe, not physically, but professionally, much better off than how you found it. So Paradise Valley is gaining quite an advocate, and I know that they realize that. And I'm always only a phone call away. You better believe I'll be calling you to complain about A, B, and C from McCade. That's not going to change, whether you can do anything about it or not. But look, you've done a fantastic job. And I've always said that your job is the hardest job in the city because when the residents are mad, they blame the mayor. But when the elected officials are mad, they blame the city manager. So you've had to navigate that through countless numbers of personalities throughout your career. So you've done an excellent job, and I thank you for our service, and you'll definitely be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Keating. Next up, I'm going to go to Councilmember Chin.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. Andrew. I am extremely grateful to you for your 20 years of service to our community. And when I say that, as someone else who grew up in Tempe, I think you've been a son of Tempe, and you've approached your years of service with that in your heart. Tempe is the home that you've made as an adult, where you've chosen to live with your family. And you've approached your role with care and concern as both a resident and as a public servant. I appreciate your work and am extremely grateful. There is one unresolved issue that remains between us, and I think it's okay if we talk about it tonight. Your misguided allegiance to your undergraduate alma mater continues to confound me. For an intelligent man, it runs counter to my allegiance to my far superior alma mater. I know you tried to atone for that misguided decision by attending a far superior law school in the state of Arizona. However, it still remains unresolved, and I look forward to our continued debates and fun rivalry that we have. I wish you great luck and joy and best wishes in your next endeavor. And you have 3 minutes. State your name and your city of residence whenever you want.
Thank you, Councilmember Chin. Next up, Councilmember Garland.
I don't know if he's going to be able to do that 3 minutes. We'll have to see. Andrew, you got a call from me when I was had decided to run for office, and I was a nobody. And you were so kind to meet with me, to have coffee, and sit and listen to some of my crazy questions. And I just thought that you were extremely kind, and I really appreciated the time that you gave me. You gave me some good direction. I was really glad when I got elected because I did get to work with you, and you continued to give me guidance here on council. I love the fact that I get to see you every 4 days a week when I was in the office, because you were available to me then, and you were always willing to listen to me and try to help me figure out a problem or give me guidance on where I needed to go to look for the answer. I just want to say I think that was really important to me. I think your institutional knowledge is amazing. Sometimes we will be sitting in meetings and we'll say something and you pull up not only the back history, but the dates on when they happened and who was in the room, and probably if we would have asked where they were sitting in the room. It's amazing that you have that institutional knowledge, and I think we're gonna miss that a lot. I just want to say I'm gonna miss your sense of humor. I have enjoyed the conversations that we had. I don't think that they'll end. I'm glad that you are now, I can still look at you as a neighbor, and I'm always going to look at you as a friend. You've meant a lot to me in my first 3 years here, and I just want to say thank you so much, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, Councilmember Garland. Next up, Councilmember Hodge.
So Andrew, you're right. I'm the newest on council, but not the newest in your life. We have known each other for years. We're neighbors, so we're going to definitely see each other. And the fact that I gave your son his diploma, and we'll be looking forward to giving your daughter hers in another few more years. I remember when I decided to run, you sat down with me and talked to me, and you gave a prediction that actually came true. You said, I know the 3 winners. I just don't know. I'm not going to predict the order, but I know the 3 winners, and the 3 winners are now sitting on this dais together. He had no doubt that the three of us would be sitting here together. You have been, I love sitting on the corner next to you because you sometimes had to keep me from cracking up. A lot of the times, people don't realize how funny you are in the middle of a council meeting when you're trying to look straight faced and you say something that's funny and you was not laugh, but you leave it to us too. I'm gonna miss all the times I call you, our dinners, our lunches, but it won't go away because, like I said, you're my neighbor and my friend, so I'll definitely keep in contact with you. But I have to give you one last thing, is our candy, because people don't know, but I hand Andrew a handful of candy at every council meeting, so this is my last chance to give you my candy. Right next to you. Rosa, I hope you have a sweet tooth because I do give candy throughout the whole time. Well, as I said, I love you and you take care. And if things don't work out, you know where we at. You have our address. Come on back home. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hodge. I guess that just leaves me. So this is a story I know that Andrew's heard quite a few times, and I know my colleagues have heard, but probably not a lot of people in the audience or folks watching at home have. But I first came to the City Council back in July of 2008 at the age of 29. And I remember, frankly, sometimes having imposter syndrome and wondering, like, what am I doing here and how did this end up happening? And one of the people that I met very early on was Andrew Ching. He was the city attorney at the time. And I was always just so impressed with how brilliant he was when it came to figuring out how to really carefully recite the law, but also understanding that we sitting up here as policymakers, we have to find creative solutions to make sure that we are not only staying within the lines of the law, but making sure that we are understanding that we are serving a community and residents who are living here and paying taxes and want to live in a great, safe community with great schools and great parks and just a great quality of life. And he did such an exceptional job of that during pretty much the first 4.5 years that I was here as a member of the City Council. He was just extraordinary. And then I remember at the time when we were going through a city manager transition, I remember Andrew was named the interim city manager back in February of 2013. And I remember having a conversation with him at one point when he was first getting appointed. And I remember asking him, is this a job that you would potentially want permanently? And he said, well, Corey, I'm an attorney, and my hope is that I can help the council get through this period of time as you search for a new city manager, but then I'm going to probably go back over and run the city attorney's office. And I said, well, hey, if at some point something changes, if you've been here for a couple of weeks or 3-4 weeks and you've made a decision that something changes, I would love to know, just because I think you're doing a stellar job and you're such an exceptional asset to this organization. And I went back to him probably about a month or so later, and I remember asking him again and saying, hey, so what are you thinking? Are you still going to go back to the city attorney's office after we kind of go through the search process? And he said, I'm kind of thinking I kind of like the job now. I might want to stay potentially. And one of the things I remember having a happy hour with a former colleague at La Boca when it was still there over at 7th and Mill, and we were still in the middle of a nationwide search. And me and this colleague sat down, and the two of us, before we even sat in our chairs, both looked at one another and said, I've got something to tell you. And we both kind of cut each other off. And I said, well, you go first. And what this colleague told me was, I think we already have our permanent city manager. There's no need for a search. And I said, that's exactly what I was going to tell you. We already have Andrew. He's doing phenomenal things. He's bringing a really fresh spirit to this organization and a fresh look at the organization. And I just thought there was no need for us to continue with the search. And I know after that, the council went back and basically said, we're going to go ahead and do away with the search. We have the right guy here. And that from that conversation and the conversation that we had with the rest of our colleagues, he then became our city manager for the next 10 years. And he's done an exceptional job in this role, serving not just simply the council, but all of the employees here at the city of Tempe, and of course, all of the nearly 200,000 residents here within the city of Tempe's boundaries. One of the things I always think about Andrew, though, is his care for the employees. I know when we talked about this in the proclamation, the guy does make an absolutely mean crepe. And I got to his party the other day that he was having, and he basically said, hey, we're almost out of the regular crepes, but I've got the gluten-free crepes if you'd like to try those out. And so I'm thinking to myself, I probably should try to eat less gluten in my life as I get a little bit older. And I grabbed the gluten-free crepes. He said, well, Corey, they're gluten-free, but I think they have a really strong buttermilk flavor that I think you might like. And then lo lo and behold, I ate 4 crepes, covered in strawberry jelly there. I'm like, I would have never known that these were gluten-free. These things are so darn good. I need to find out exactly what recipe or what mix you use, but my gosh, these things were amazing. But that was exactly the celebration he wanted. It was having, basically sitting around, letting employees kind of come through in kind of a progressive kind of sense, and just sort of making crepes for everyone and sitting around, talking about the organization and sharing memories and stories from his well over 2 decades of service here within the city of Tempe. And I know a lot of folks touched upon this earlier, but he has an absolutely incredible sense of humor as well. Matter of fact, some of the best jokes that Andrew and I have shared together are things that I can't even say in public, but I can tell you they are pretty darn funny stories that I will tell you when the camera turns off here. But he just has an incredible sense of humor. He has a way of just a sharp sense of wit, and the ability also sometimes when a situation can get a little bit tense to find a way to infuse some humor to break up some of the tension in the room so people can get back to talking about how to solve the issue and not just letting the tension take over the situation. So I'm really going to miss working with him and missing that really incredible sense of humor that he brought to the job each and every day. He worked hard each and every day that he was here, but he obviously also was someone who was incredibly beloved by this organization because of how much he cared about the employees and that sense of humor that I just talked about. I also, though, have to say that as he talked about with me, more so than just a city manager, though, I consider Andrew to be a friend. He's been someone who's been a friend since the moment I set foot in this organization back in July of 2008. Even at the point that I left the city council in July of 2016, Andrew and I still talked regularly. We still got together every now and then for breakfast or lunch just to sort of talk. We weren't talking about anything pertaining to city business. We were just talking about our lives. I got to know his wife, Christine, and I got to know his children. And all of our conversations were just about us as human beings, not about politics, not about what was on the council agenda for that coming Thursday, but just about who we were as human beings. And that's kind of where the bond that we still have to this day was formed. And so many of our incredible conversations happened very late at night because Andrew and I are both night owls, and there were many times where he would send me a text at 10:45 or 11 o'clock in the evening and say, "Hey, are you still up?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm pretty much still up." And then we would get on the phone for 45 minutes or an hour and just sort of talk through an issue or a situation that we wanted to work on behalf of the city council or on behalf of our residents or our employees. And so definitely I'm going to miss those late night conversations when it comes to talking about city issues, but we could still have the Andrew talking about personal things. So those can absolutely still continue because I know you're a night owl and I probably still will be too until the day that I die. But last thing I was going to say to you, truly, as I know Councilmember Keating said, we are definitely sad to see you go, but we know the town of Paradise Valley is gaining an extraordinary city manager. I had a wonderful conversation with their mayor, Jerry Bean Wilner, who I knew Andrew knew in high school when I think Jerry was on the debate team back in the day. And so I know how excited he is to have Andrew starting on June 19th at the town of Paradise Valley. And I had a great conversation with Mayor Bean Wilner about just how extraordinary of a man he was going to get there at City Hall in Paradise Valley. So Andrew, I mean, I can't say enough great things about you and the work that you've done, what your guidance and your friendship to me has meant during the time that we've had a chance to work together. I wish you all the best. I know you're going to do an exceptional job in PV, but even more importantly, I'm glad you're my friend, and I'm glad you're going to continue to be a resident of the city of Tempe. So from each and every one of us, we love you and we appreciate you, and thank you for doing such a stellar job for all of these years. With that said, I'm going to move on to item number 10, public appearances. It always feels weird to have a public appearance after that, but it's on the agenda, so Madam City Attorney and I will follow the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council? And if so, please come forward and state your name and city of residence for the record. All right, seeing none, I will go ahead and close, but I just want to say, if we could all, before I close, we're going to adjourn this meeting. The next regular city council meeting is July 27th, 2023, so you have a little bit of time off from seeing us. But I just wanted to say we've got another couple of meetings that we have to conclude after this wraps up. But before we gavel this meeting, if we could give Andrew one more standing ovation for the work that he's done for the city for well over 2 decades. And with that, this regular council meeting is adjourned.